Wow, Rory was putting on a dance show during the theme song. That was nice, Rory. I liked it.
Thank you. Thankfully, I managed to get my top back on in time. But I need to get myself ramped up for these things. It's a long day at work. I have to get the energy pumping. How are we doing, Tommy?
I'm doing great. Well, welcome listeners to the Anglo-Italian pod. If you're listening on any day of the week, which is not Monday, you're doing it wrong because we're currently live on Twitch and YouTube to discuss football with our friends that are joining us from the chat. Good evening, lads. As always, you can find us on Instagram at Anglo-Italian pod and on Twitter at Italian Anglo pod. And if you want to do your good deed of the day, you should also follow our sponsor at Sports Club Maps. You can find them on Twitter, on Instagram, and we are going to run another giveaway soon. So before we do that, make sure you follow them. Otherwise, you're not going to be eligible. How are you today, bud?
Yeah, I'm good. I am good. Like I said, a long day at work, but a kind of relatively weirdly football-free weekend. And then I just watched all the highlights in the world. And I realized that I've kind of fallen. I really do love international football. Like the Nations League final last night got me right back into international football again. I really do fucking love it.
We are going to get on it, but I saw there was a very long Twitter thread started from you. We're going to discuss the details very soon about the Nations League final. But since we're talking about international football, we should say it right away. It's official starting on January 9th, which is a Sunday, from the following episode on a Monday night. We're going to be covering intensely the Africa Cup of Nations. This was Rory's idea, who is currently rocking an Ivory Coast kit.
Yeah, 2000s Ivory Coast, and it's got Kolo Touré's number on the back.
So
Classic.
this is it's going to be very interesting. I'm going to watch these games profusely for the first time in my life, and we are looking for an African football expert. So either you are the person we're looking for and you're listening, or you know somebody who could give us a hand, please slide into our DMs. We are looking for a co-anchor for that month of football. And also, Rory, you want to ask the question about the theme sound? Maybe our listeners can help us.
Yeah, exactly. We also need someone to slightly edit our theme song. Ideas welcome, but if anyone, honestly, this is just becoming a bit of an appeal. If anybody knows anyone who is a music producer or is good with GarageBand who could give us a hand and change
I think it's a
our
little
theme
more
tune a little
difficult.
bit,
Yeah.
it would be greatly appreciated. But yeah, I'm really excited to do the AFCON. It's a tournament that I always watch anyway. I absolutely love it. And I've just been waiting for an excuse to talk about it. So why not do it on the pod, right? Why not?
And then the final is going to be on a Sunday. And of course, we're going to do our second watch along following the Champions League final last year. So make sure that, well, it's 4 months away from now, but we are going to do that. Rory, are you backing anybody in particular?
Cote d'Ivoire, let elephants all the way, the way.
The elephants. Well, nice.
Yeah,
Ivory
yeah.
Coast, of course, they are the elephants. I think I'm going to be backing Senegal because I have a kit. My best friend from high school was a Senegal born and bred, and also Senegal fan. So that's going to be also some of the things that we're going to be discussing today, since the qualifications are still in place. But Rory, let's start from the biggest headline. France win the Nations League, becoming the very first team in the world to win a World Cup, a Euro, and a Nations League. So I know you watched the game, you were hyped up. Tell us more about it.
I thought the first half was really dull, let's be honest. The first half, I spent most of the time on Twitter just reading about other people saying how dull it was. But then the second half absolutely exploded. I think it all started where France hit the crossbar and then Spain go right down the other end. Oyarzabal gets a lovely finish, and the pass from, I think it was Busquets, was an absolute slide rule pass, really beautiful goal. And then straight away Benzema scores an absolute screamer, because of course he does. I feel like at this point he's just used to dragging teams out of the shit. Like he's just doing it constantly on a match by match basis at this point. And then Mbappe with a goal that I did kind of heatedly. No, I just discussed with a friend of the show, Gav Mack, and friend of the show, Andrew McBride from the Hopeless Wanderer pod, about whether it was offside or not. Have you seen the screenshot, Tommy? What did you think?
I have seen both the screenshot and the highlights, and I was reading a post today about that page that I often mention called at Errori Arbitrali. It's all in Italian, but luckily Instagram introduced the feature of the automatic translation, so you can probably get what they say. And I did not understand what the rule is. So apparently it was not offside because the Spanish defender had a touch on the ball, therefore putting Mbappe in play. However, the controversy that I seemed to understand, you'll tell me if I'm right or wrong, I seem to understand that since the the Spanish defender touched it, it's not offside anymore. But he kind of played the ball in Mbappe's direction, and so it could be ruled offside. At the end, I was just left more confused than in the beginning. Did you understand whether it's offside or not?
Not really. I thought instantly it was offside because you see those offsides given all the time when there's that much of like the body over to one way. Usually that's called offside. Now, usually we would like, or I would like, the advantage to be given to attacking teams. But I just feel the fact that it isn't always given means that this is offside because usually it's given offside. Also, I feel like it's quite harsh on, I think it was the defender was Eric Garcia. Now, he's not a great defender, but I think it was quite harsh on him. Like, if he just, what's he meant to do? Is he meant to just let the ball run through? Because he's just trying to do his job, right? He's trying to get in the way of the ball. He does, but he just ends up playing the guy. I just feel like it was a bit harsh on him. But I don't know. Look, it was still a great goal. Mbappe like put the keeper on his arse and went round him. That's always nice to see. And that was in a game that, in the large part, Mbappe was really, really quiet. He did nothing. But then he scores the winning goal, and you're like, okay, that's why he is who he is, I suppose. And like, what it really stood out, or what it made stand out to me more, was the fact that Spain are just that one player away from being trophy winners again. And I feel like we had two teams here, France and Manchester United. I'm going to get onto it why. And Spain and Manchester City, right? Because Spain have got all the players in the world. They just need a proper striker. And France seemed like there wasn't really much of a like team, but they relied on individual brilliance. And I feel like I just saw the kind of similarities between the two teams straight there. I was like, oh, so this is just United playing City now. That's what it is. Right. I get it. But
I like it. I like the parallels, yeah.
But I think Spain now, they play, I think they're back to playing the best football on the planet. They're the most entertaining team to watch, I think. They're so entertaining to watch.
Oh, I think we realized it already at the Euros in that game against Italy. Like when they raised the bar a little bit, they really showed up, and we've already covered it. They've got a very young team, full of potential, and hopefully, this is not even a matter of can they perform well in the next World Cup. The next World Cup might as well be a sort of like warm up for a decade of domination, maybe, because as you were saying. Well, number one, we've already seen Spain dominating on international stage for 10 years. But as you were saying, they're playing very good and entertaining football. And again, I think that Luis Enrique maybe had a bit of an unlucky beginning of his career as a manager. His Roma spell was just ridiculous. I remember one of the worst games I've ever watched at the San Siro was Inter-Roma. And the two managers were Gasperini for Inter and Luis Enrique for Roma. And it was awful. It ended 0-0, and it was honestly, there were people yawning in the stands. They were just wow, Inter play shit, but Roma are like big time contenders. But then he really picked it up, and I think that he's the right man for the national team to coach the national team, and he's doing a brilliant job. Again, a Nations League title doesn't really mean a lot. I think he's pretty happy with the result anyways, seeing that his team was able to defeat the European champions in the semifinals, and they put up a fight against France, and they eventually lost for a goal that was, we could argue over and over whether it was offside or not, but it wasn't a clear-cut goal, you know?
Yeah, I think, like, look, Spain dominated the game. Spain, like, France, they just took their chances. Spain were the better team, and I think they controlled the game more, but that's what you expect from Spain. They have the ball, they control the game. So I think they're really, really close to doing something. I think you're right with Enrique. I've always liked him as a coach. And I think he's doing a really, really good job there. And I think for him, this Nations League thing has been really valuable because for players like Gavi and Pedri, like they might not, although Pedri did start throughout the Euros, but players like Gavi, they might not start in major tournaments, but they've now almost had the experience of a major tournament and a major final without the pressure being as big as if it had been a World Cup final or a European Championship final. So I think it's this tournament is finding this weird little niche in between friendly and major tournament that just means you can enjoy it a bit more. There's like a bit more free form, a bit more like, well, we can try things, we can see what happens here. And I think it's finding a really nice little spot. I'm rapidly becoming a massive fan of the Nations League. I think it's never going to be as valued as highly as the World Cup, etc. Of course it isn't, or the European Championship. But I think it's going to be really, really valuable for coaches and for teams and for players. I think you're going to see so many more opportunities.
Yeah, I agree with you. But talking about people who are not big fans of the Nations League, and especially of the finalina, as we call it in Italian, the little final between the third and the fourth place. I'm talking, of course, about Thibaut Courtois, who was very outspoken about fixture congestion, which means only one thing. Thibaut Courtois listens to the Anglo-Italian pod.
Welcome, Thibaut. Welcome, Thibaut. Yes,
Welcome, Thibaut.
It's good to have you on board.
We've been knowing this for quite a while, but we just thought of like making it official now. He's a friend of the pod and the listener and the intimate friend of ours. And he was like, well, if those guys have the guts to say it, guess what? I'm going to do it too. And I'm going to say it on the mic. So what did you think about that little rant after the game?
I think it's interesting because when I clicked on I saw the tweet and I was like, right, I'm going to click on it. And I know exactly what the comments are going to be. The comments are going to be, well, you get fucking paid enough, so stop moaning and get out there and play. And obviously the first 50 comments were that, right? But then there's a lot of comments that were like, no, I think he's absolutely right. Like, and all he said was, we're only playing these games so that FIFA can make, or so that UEFA can make more money. That's why we're playing these games. There is no other need to play this game. And he's absolutely spot on. And then he just said about how last season kind of blended into this season because of COVID and all the delays and stuff. And then they didn't have the summer off. And then they'll get next summer off, right? But then they're going straight into a season that's going to be interrupted by a World Cup that's then going to be another extended season. He just said, when do we get a rest? He just said, we're all going to be injured. Like we're going to get injured towards the end. I think he just makes a very good point. I think it needs to be spoken about more because even as we discussed before with like Arsene Wenger coming out and saying a World Cup every 2 years and stuff, they need to, like, the players need to speak out and say, look, this isn't sustainable. And it isn't. Like, we've already complained a little bit about there being too much football to watch, right? About like, you've got the Champions League, then you've got the Europa League, then you've got the Conference League, then you've got the Nations League, then you've got your domestic leagues, then you've got international tournament. And it's like, I would quite happily watch football 24 hours a day, but I cannot watch that much football. It's not possible. So who's it for? Like, and I think it will be talked about more. And I think the fact that Thibaut Courtois has come out and talked about it is great. The funny thing is that whoever runs his social media account still put a post up before the game, like, let's go to battle. And obviously hadn't really listened to the fact that he talked before the game about how he didn't want to play the game. So it was quite funny, but it was good to see him come out and speak about it anyway.
And another thing that just came up to my mind, as I often do, I'm going to just say it without giving it extra thought, and then I will see how it sounds. And then
why change the habit of a lifetime, Tommy? Why change the habit of a lifetime?
Especially if you're a listener of the pod, you should know this. But I was thinking, especially if you're trying to make football way more appealing to an international crowd, us in Europe, us like hardcore football heads, we kind of know how to keep up with football. We know what an international break is. We know that the leagues are going to get a rest and they're going to come back. Then there is the Africa Cup of Nations. So some players of the main, but especially for an American audience, right? They're trying to make it big in that continent, especially for an American audience. It's getting a little tough to understand. And I'm not at all undermining the intelligence of our American friends, but it's a difficult system. Like even the fact that there is club football and international football, then some international players get to leave in the middle of the season because they have to play an international tournament. And then their teammates at the club also will take a break to qualify for the next World Cup. Mm-hmm. And then wait a second, the World Cup is usually in summer, but this one we're going to do it in Qatar. So it's getting a little difficult to follow. And I understand why some people could get a little tired, because when you follow a sport, you kind of want to be knowledgeable about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, I remember years back when I started following the NBA, you do your own research, you go online, you see which teams are playing, you're like, okay, I understand the system, right? And the more you know about it, the more passionate you become about
Yeah.
it. If you cannot reach that level of understanding, because maybe there isn't a person also telling you, okay, this is how it works, then the risk is that you're just going to drop out of it. You're just going to be like, fuck it, it's too intense. I'm just going to go back to NFL. They play, every team has got a bye week. They play every weekend. The season ends in February. And then I get to wait another 8 months till it starts again.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very fair point. And honestly, like the girlfriend asked me the question last night that every football fan dreads, and that was, how does the Nations League work? She's like, and I was like, oh God, right, okay. So I got to a point where I could explain promotion, relegation, and I was like, but it feeds into the international tournaments. And she looked at me, I was like, but I don't even have a clue how that works. Like, I have no idea. I don't even know. So let's just say it does work into it, but fuck knows. So I think you're right. That like instantly it's like, oh, okay, it doesn't matter then. If I'm not going to understand, I'm not going to bother listening anymore, if you know what I mean. So I think it is like maybe getting a little bit too complicated, but American sports are much more complicated, so it's fine. We're still not at that point.
The rules are more complicated, but then the organization is pretty straightforward. By the way, also my father asked me what the Nations League was last week. He was driving, and I was explaining it to him, and after 2 seconds, he was already looking at the countryside outside the window. It was just like, yeah, very cool. Yep, super cool. Yeah,
wow,
it just feels
so interesting.
But that's also one of the reasons why we were like this year, we were just like, look, all right, it's trial and error with the podcast, right? And the first year we were trying to like cover everything that was happening. And this year we were just like, dude, let's stick to Anglo-Italian pod. So Premier League, Serie A, international football. And then when we get to the interesting stages, besides the Champions League, also the Europa League, also the Conference League, but like later on. Right now, it's just
there's so much to talk about.
It would be
and we actually have to talk about how Italy did. What happened to Italy?
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy about Italy. I'm happy for Italy about the win. It's important to bounce back right away. I did not watch the game, which again says how much people care about the Nations League, but especially about the Finalina. I did watch the highlights. Always enjoy seeing a Barella goal. It looked like a pretty even game, and Belgium got very unlucky, hitting the woodwork 4 times. So definitely very unlucky. It looked like it was a very even game. It could have ended in a draw, and it would have been a scandal. But what I like, I guess that my takeaway is that Italy, they may not win every game. We lost the last one against Spain, but we've reached a certain level of maturity on international stage, which was not, something that would happen automatically. So it means that we've got some very talented young players with a good personality. Let's not forget the Bastonis, Barellas. They've contributed heavily to bringing a title to Inter Milan. And they seem, especially Barella, man, that guy has a personality that is beyond me. He looks like a good group of guys. Mancini starting to try new things. He seems over Immobile as a striker.
About time. I think we can all say it's about time, right?
And we've got this exciting youngster, Raspadori from Sassuolo. I don't believe he had many shots in the game against Belgium, but still, he's getting regular football, and I think he will become a big name in the future. So yeah, I'm happy with the win, also because, as we will cover later, there might be a big game coming up in the next international break in November against Switzerland. But we're going to cover that soon. Do you get to watch the game, Rory? What did you think?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. I have seen the highlights. I was in Sempione. I was enjoying. We're just pushing every weekend while it's still warm. We'll go and sit in the park until it gets too cold. But I did see lots of French and Spanish people milling around. For the game, what did I think? I think you're right. I think Italy, they needed to get that just straight back on the horse, so to speak. With Belgium, it's just another one where they flatter to deceive over and over and over again. And I feel like eventually, like in about 10 years' time, people are going to look back and go, why were the two managers that managed that squad Wilmots. Is that his name? Wilmots? I can't remember his name. Wilmots and Martinez. Like, how did those two managers, how were they trusted with the greatest generation that Belgium have ever produced by some distance? Like, I think off the top of my head, Belgium have never really been competitive before that. I think they got to a semi-final once, maybe. But this generation is so clear of anything they've ever done. And their managers have just been really underwhelming. I think every time they get close, they just fall at the last hurdle. There's always kind of, I don't know, defensive mistakes or a hole in the team somewhere. I think it's just they're going to be regretting it so much in 10 years when Lukaku, De Bruyne, and all them have never won anything. And Steve Cole coming in with the gut punch for all the Spurs fans listening. Belgium are the Spurs of international football. I think Spurs wish they were as good as Belgium, but yeah, they are the Spurs of international football. I'll take that.
It's just frustrating. Also, there were a lot of jokes I saw by the Italian fans about like, wow, this team is the first according to the FIFA rankings. Well, who is behind the FIFA rankings? So I don't even want to get down that rabbit hole. I'm not going to check what's the criteria for the best ranking. But guys, you need to review that because it doesn't make sense that Belgium are first and they've bottled the Euros, they've bottled the World Cup. The Nations League, they were winning 2-0 in the semifinal against France, and they lost 3-2. It's, it's also, as I'm saying that Italy have got a strong mentality on the international stage, it feels like Belgium's is very fragile. And De Bruyne, I don't know if you heard the comments. I just read the quote unquote, but I would have to watch the entire interview. But he said, we are just a team like many others. We are 11 players put together to play on a pitch, but we are not a bunch of superstars. We are not a team, unlike Italy. Like, he was just like, where Italy are, maybe they have less bright talent, but they're more of a team. We have talent, but together we're just any team, and you can beat us.
But how long have these people been? They've been playing together for a long time. A lot of these players, they've got possibly 2-3 tournaments under their belt together. With like
3 tournaments,
Lukaku, De Bruyne, Witsel, Courtois, like that core of players. They've got a good few tournaments behind them now, and you can't say that like, oh, we've just been thrown together. It's like, nah, you all kind of came through at the same time, and
I think you
should have done better. You've not even reached a final. Ultimately, you've not even reached a final.
I think it was more of a jab to the manager, just like, you've got stars, but you cannot play them together. Like, you've never really, I don't know, but yeah, it's kind of disappointing. Again, it's not a big competition, and they arriving fourth or third wouldn't have changed anything. They would still be first in the FIFA rankings, right? But
exactly.
But no, like at the next World Cup, like if they don't make a solid push in the next World Cup, then it's going to be really one of the biggest disappointments for an entire generation in world football. So there are a bunch of people writing, and I actually wanted to go back to the chat to highlight the comment from the Hopeless Wanderer, who says, a suggestion to keep it competitive, just 2 international breaks per year, plus a yearly tournament every year. For example, the Euros, World Cup played in the summer. What do you say, Rory?
I think having a designated time for international breaks is definitely a better idea. I think having like where you just say maybe like a month, where it's just like, this is the international break. You're going to play all those games then we'll go back to the season. I think that does kind of make more sense rather than this now where it's like 2 Premier League games, international break, 3 Premier League games, international break. And it's just like, oh, for God's sake, you can't keep on top of it. The players are flying all over the place. It's just, especially for the South American players, it's just a nightmare, right? Or the guys having to play for Jamaica or like out to South Korea or whatever. That's like a proper nightmare. So I think it does need to be organized better. And I think, look, tournaments should always be played in the summer. Just summer tournaments, please. No other choice, apart from AFCON for obvious reasons. But like, just summer tournaments, please. Yeah, I think it makes so much more sense. What do you think?
I like it. Maybe not an international competition every year. Look, I am the first one to say that these people are paid millions for the job that they do. But again, football is a sport where you get to use your body, and if you don't use it wisely, you can ruin it for real.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that a summer tournament every year would be too much. Once every 2 years, just like it is with the World Cup and the Euros. You get one summer off, and then there is the tournament. One summer off, and then there is the tournament. I think that's the best way to go at it. Definitely not tournaments in the winter. That's gonna suck
Well,
so
that whole
much.
just quickly, that whole argument annoys me of like you're paid enough. Yeah, well, an extra 50 grand a year doesn't make your hamstrings any better. Like, if you know
Right?
what
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're still, yes, you get paid lots of money, but it doesn't necessarily mean instantly you never get injured. Like, the money doesn't really come into it when it comes into like the peak level of like athletic performance and what that takes. That's going to have a toll on the body no matter how much you earn. Like, so I think the argument kind of falls apart fairly quickly. But
And talking about, it just came up to my mind because I wrote on quote today, before we move on to the other World Cup qualifiers across the world. But a certain Neymar, aka Rory's favorite footballer of all time, said that he doesn't know if he will take part in any more international tournaments after next year because he's not sure he can cope with the stress football causes him. Rory, what do you say?
I'm sure that he has. I'm sure he has more pressure on him than I've ever had in my life. So I'm not going to start slagging him off for being like a snowflake or whatever the gammons like to say. But,
Oh, here it is.
but
That's why I was moving my hands. I was like,
yeah,
what?
but I just don't like him. I just feel like it's a bit of like PR. I don't know. I think he'll still be playing past. I think for Brazilians, it really matters a lot to play for your international team. To play for
Mhm.
Brazil means a lot. I would expect him to give up club football and continue international football because he obviously doesn't give a shit about playing for PSG. So I would be more surprised about him giving up the chance to play for Brazil because it seems like it really does mean something to him. So if it means as much to him as it seems to, then the pressure must be a lot if he's considering quitting. But what I saw was he was considering quitting football, like not just but just
No, yeah,
football
yeah,
in completely,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think he was he was referring to football in general. And our friend Uncle Sharma from Inter Videos Weekly.
Yes,
Uncle,
mate.
nice to see you. There are a lot of people. I'm gonna give a
Yeah.
shout out. Uncle Sharma, Steve Cole, Bryce Jones, the Hopeless Wanderer podcast, myself and Rory. It's a bit of a party. Uncle Sharma says Neymar has lasted longer than most Brazilians when you think about it, and it's true. And it's true. And we were just talking about him last week. He's the second most prolific goal scorer for the national team. And do you remember when he got injured against Colombia and the people on the streets were crying in Brazil?
Holding
And
their shirts up at the World Cup and stuff.
yeah, man, it
Yeah.
was just like, you guys maybe take it a little too far. I don't know. Like, should you all be crying? Like, I don't know.
It's not like Brazilians to take football too seriously. It's not
Nah,
like they
yeah,
had
it
a
doesn't.
full week of mourning after that World Cup. But Tommy, I've got a quick question for you. If Neymar was to retire next summer, do you think he goes down as a all-time great? Because I don't think he does.
I think it does for me. I look when very quickly we got still a lot of things to cover, but
Yeah, we do.
when
Yeah.
when Neymar came to Europe, I want to say it was around 2012, 2013. I thought that there was a lot of hype around him, like way too much hype. I was like, this guy has never played in Europe. Like he's never played against European defenses. Like he's never gonna make it in Europe. Like let's see. I'm gonna keep a close eye on him. And then when I started seeing him play, the first season in La Liga, it was every defender's main goal during the game to try and break his shins. He had like he
Yeah.
suffered from the most awful tackles. Like it wasn't even football; it was just like go get the Brazilian and break his legs. But then, man, there was a stat that I had to look up again. He's not one season. I think he went on like 85 assists for Messi and Suarez combined in all competitions. And there was an argument of people saying, well, it's easy when you play with Messi and Suarez. And it's just like, it's not that easy, man, to not look like he looked on the same level as Messi and Suarez very often. And I really liked him at Barcelona. The PSG move was controversial also because you kind of like move away from the spotlight. And I kind of see why he did it for so much money and to try to become a club legend there. But my passion for Neymar has definitely decreased ever since his move to PSG. I think he's an incredible footballer. He needs to maybe win a World Cup with Brazil to go down as one of the all-time greats. But he's definitely in the conversation of the top 15, I would say. What's
Okay,
your
no,
take?
I think let's agree to disagree. I think I'm definitely siding with the people in the comments who are saying Bryce has said one of the biggest what could have been, in my opinion. I think if he hadn't moved to PSG, I think his career could have been so much greater. And Hopeless Wanderer coming in with I couldn't have put it better myself. Flatters to deceive, could have been a legend, but ruined his legacy by being a spoilt brat, meaning I have less respect for him. The fact that he's only played 70 odd games for PSG in the time he's been there. We've made jokes about it before, but he's always injured around his sister's birthday for whatever reason. I feel like he definitely has other priorities, and yeah, it's just ruined his legacy a little bit. Because you're right, when he came over, it was like this guy is gonna like tear Europe to pieces, and he did for a bit, and then he just stopped. Yeah.
And Uncle Sharma says when he overtakes Pelé's goal tally, he's an all-time great, undeniably. I mean,
It's hard to
well,
argue with that, really. It's hard to
very hard to
with
argue with that.
Yeah.
But Rory, let's stay in Europe. Actually, let's come back to Europe from Brazil and take us through the World Cup qualifiers of the Northern Sea. No, not the Northern Sea. What is it? The Atlantic Ocean. So let's talk about
Yeah.
UK and Ireland and Northern Ireland.
Well, let's start with England battering Andorra 5-0, as to be expected, really. But what everyone was talking about was Phil Foden's new role within the team as he played in central midfield. And obviously, because they're England fans, instantly started comparing him to Andrea Pirlo. But he did have an incredible game against Andorra. And he was playing some incredible passes. He really was like absolutely dictating the play, ran the game against Andorra. But Jack Grealish got a goal. And of course,
against Andorra.
Against Andorra. But the one that I'm not going to say against Andorra for is because Bukayo Saka scored again
against Andorra.
The first Arsenal player to score in consecutive games for England in what feels like about 50 years. So it's great to see Bukayo Saka absolutely smashing it. But the highlight of the game for most people was that Ildefons Lima, who, by the way, I'm actually going to try and contact because he's brilliant on Twitter. He is 41 years old. He's an absolute like Andorra legend. And he came on in midfield, tried to run against Sancho and pulled his hamstring. And then on Twitter made a joke about a sniper shooting him and told Sancho to calm down. So that was great to see. All around, look, yeah, it is. I don't want to get into the debate about whether these teams should have the right to play against England, because I think they do, whereas a lot of people kind of disagree with me. But these games do feel like a bit of a waste of time. But it's nice to see, I don't know, for the players on the fringe of the England squad, they managed to get a game, and Bukayo Saka scored, so sod it, it was worth it. So that was 5-0 to England. Then, as always, from England, I'm going to go on to Ireland, because that is where my heart is torn. And Ireland, finally, Stephen Kenny got his first competitive win as Ireland boss as they beat Azerbaijan 3-0 away. This is the first Ireland game I've not watched this qualification campaign, and they win. So now I can't watch any of the others. I can no longer watch Ireland games. By all accounts, Ireland were really, really good. But the story, again, that was the headline kind of away from the pitch, was that Callum Robinson scored 2 goals, and he came out before the game and said that he is refusing to be vaccinated despite having COVID twice. And he's just, obviously, all the media was just asking him about his vaccination. To be fair, he was just up front and said, look, I'm not doing it. I've had COVID twice. Yeah, it was rough, but I don't want to get vaccinated, so stop asking me questions. He celebrated and put his fingers in his ears when he scored the second goal. 2 beautiful goals. And the third goal was scored by Ogbene, who becomes the first African-born player to score for Ireland, being born in Nigeria and being raised in Cork. It was a great header, but the Azerbaijani goalkeeper was stood behind his line, which always helps, right? He headed the ball, and then the keeper caught it and then saw that he was basically behind the line. Some dodgy goalkeeping from that guy. Really dodgy goalkeeping. But Ireland get a win for pride because qualification is definitely gone, but it's good to see Stephen Kenny get his first win. Elsewhere, staying within the home nations, we have Scotland beating Israel 3-2 in the 94th minute. Scott McTominay getting the goal. This game had everything. It had VAR controversy. It had missed penalties from Scotland. It had Zahavi. Do you remember Do you know Zahavi, the
Yeah,
striker?
yeah.
He was the guy who pissed a lot of people off on Twitter by putting Israel flags over Palestine flags. He scored to the Scotland fans doing this, and then all the Scotland fans gave him loads of abuse on Twitter with Palestine flags. So that's good to see. But Scotland genuinely really have a chance of making the playoffs for the World Cup.
I was looking right now. So Denmark are leading at 21 points. They've won all of their games, followed by Scotland at 14 and Israel at 10. So remember, in Europe, the first team makes it directly, and the second teams, they're going to face off in a playoff bracket, I believe. Do you think Scotland have what it takes to make it to the playoffs?
Undoubtedly. I think if results go their way tonight or tomorrow night, I can't remember when it is, they could qualify with their next game, like for the playoffs. So, look, Steve Clarke is doing an incredible job. Look, at the Euros, they definitely didn't do well at the Euros, and it was very Scotland. But they haven't got to a tournament in ages, and if he got them to 2 tournaments in a row, that is outstanding. And it seems that now there's a bit of there's some encouragement around this Scotland team. There's some decent players. They've got Andy Robertson, they've got Billy Gilmore, they've got John McGinn. They've got a few players there that are kind of building this squad. That means they've got a fairly good team that could give most people a game, as long as they don't have that Scotland moment that just is like some comedy farcical moment that happens in every tournament. But I think Steve Clarke's doing an incredible job, and the John McGinn goal in this game is absolutely beautiful as well. The great celebration with the old school pilot hands, a great little celebration. But seeing Hampden going absolutely mental, it's just always great to see. I love the Scottish crowd, and that noise was intense. So for a lot of the home nations, that'll really piss off any Irish people. I apologize. For a lot of the home nations, it's been quite a good week, but not for everyone. Wales, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. They've not qualified for a World Cup since 1958, I don't think. And it looks like they won't be going to the next one. They drew 2-2 with Czech Republic. It's going to be a real uphill battle for them now. And to rub salt into the wounds, the goalkeeper absolutely shagged it from an Aaron Ramsey back pass, letting the Czech score. And it looks like they're just going to miss out on another tournament. Everyone can guess how much I love Aaron Ramsey. I fucking love Aaron Ramsey. And it winds me up that he would never get a chance at Juventus. But I saw an interview with him where he was talking about how much it would mean to get to a World Cup for him and the Welsh boys. And I think that Wales squad, we've talked about it before, because it feels like it's such a club environment. I think it would be really nice to see them at a World Cup. And I really want them to make it. But I feel like this is really their last opportunity for the likes of Bale, Ramsey. I think one more might be a bridge too far. But
I think you might be being a little over dramatic, because they're on even points with the Czech Republic, formerly known as Czech Republic. Now it's Czechia.
But I feel like their fixtures coming up aren't kind at all.
So no, they're on even points, but they have one game in hand. So they're on 8 points, and their next games are against Estonia, Belarus, and Belgium.
That's the big one. It's the Belgium game last match round. I think the one where it's going to be.
But see, let's just get into 1 second. So the game against Belgium is going to be, I'm going to tell you exactly when it's going to be, because at that point Belgium are already going to be qualified, and so the game against Belgium is going to be on November 16th. They are already automatically qualified as the first in the group. I don't see why they should start like the squad that they would start. They would start against like a team that they're actually competing with. So they need 3 wins, definitely 3 wins, or 2 wins and 1 draw, or 1 win and 2 draws and cross their fingers. But 2 wins. They definitely need the 2 wins.
The one that worries me, as well as the game against Belgium, is Belarus. Belarus they're not a pushover. I know we think of them as this outskirt, but recently they genuinely are starting to improve, and I think Belarus away is going to be. I think it's away. That's going to be a tricky one.
They've won 1 game in their last 10, Rory.
Mate, honestly, I'm telling you now, that is going to be a tricky game for Wales. That's going to be
and Wales, and the last time that Wales beat them, it was a 3-2. So yeah, the only team that they were able to score against they were Azerbaijan and Wales. So I see why you're worried. And what about Northern Ireland, Rory?
Well, they were absolutely outclassed by a very efficient Switzerland, but they really were not helped. Were not helped by the referee. I don't know if you've seen the red card there, Tommy. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
So within the first half, Jamal Lewis gets booked, and then Northern Ireland. This is what they do: they slow the game down, they waste time. They're very cynical.
Love it.
And he was holding the ball, and the ball was out of play for I think totally 45 seconds. The referee doesn't warn him before he books him, but then books him, and then realizes that it's his second booking, and you see it on the ref's face, and he's like, "Oh fuck, I've just booked him for the second time," and he's like, okay, and just sends him off on the 37th minute for time wasting. So I don't know what you think about this. I think because it really annoys me time wasting. And in the first half, time wasting really annoys me because I'm like, Christ, life, you're not even trying to play the game. So to an extent, I can see letter of the law, that's time wasting, red card, off you go. What do you think, Tommy? It's a really difficult one.
Well, you can. I think that the face that you were talking about that the referee made says it all. It's like a booking that you give. Well, you don't want to get someone sent off for that. You usually see that the referee runs towards the goalkeeper and he's like, "This is the last time you do it. I'm gonna send you off next time." There is usually a warning. Probably the goalkeeper, the referee had been worried about these like antics that Northern Ireland do, and he just didn't think about it, and he just booked him. Look, guys, as much as I love singing songs against referees at the stadium, I love to like insult them and all that. It's a tough fucking job. I wouldn't want to do it for anything in the world. And I think that we actually sometimes we see less mistakes than could be possible, and this is one of them. Like you never see this one, and the referee was like, fuck, I should have not booked him. But hey, it happens, and by the law, it's a yellow card. But Rory, you were talking about...
It did... Yeah. No, sorry, it did swing the game, but I think Switzerland probably would have won the game anyway. I think the game was like fairly heavily shifted towards Switzerland before the red card. I think the red card just kind of confirmed it. But, Tommy, this means that Italy's group is not looking like a certainty for Italy. Italy could have a bit of a struggle here. They could have a massive struggle.
Can you see me hiding behind my pop shield?
You're going to be missing your second World Cup in a row.
Oh, what are you talking about? Rory, don't say it out loud. I'm aggressively knocking on wood. So let's go one step at a time. Okay, so Switzerland have one game in hand, which they're going to play tomorrow night, meaning tonight for the listeners who are listening on a Tuesday. Now, they're going to play against Lithuania, and Lithuania have won only one of the last 5 international fixture, which, however, is the latest they've played just a few days ago against Bulgaria. If Switzerland win the game against Lithuania, they will be on even points with Italy. It's difficult that they will outscore Italy in the goal difference. I will have to check which one is the criteria, but little does it matter because Italy are actually going to take on Switzerland on November the 12th. That's the last game of the World Cup qualifiers, and who finishes on top goes directly to the next stage, which is the World Cup. Otherwise, it's playoff time. And the last time, it's the second to last game because then
you have to go away. You have to go away to Windsor Park in Northern Ireland. Now, I was researching this a little bit, and Italy did miss out on the 1958 World Cup by drawing 0-0 at Windsor Park in 1957. It's an omen, Tommy. All these omens, they add together. It's not an easy place to go, Belfast. Do you want to go Belfast in November? I don't. Not a chance.
Oh, shit. Belfast in November. I always think, when I want to think of a terrible pitch in the middle of the winter, I always think of like Eastern Europe. But then you say Belfast in November, and the way it sounds, it's already, ooh.
Mate, Ireland gets, awful. Yeah.
What can I say? Go Lithuania. I've always been I'm going to pull a Romelu Lukaku in here. I've always been a Lithuanian fan since I was a kid. It's always been my dream to support Lithuania against Switzerland. And so go the Lithuanians. No, it's going to be, man, it's going to be tough. Like if Switzerland do win this game and they think they will win it, we need to come to be perfect in November. That's why it was so important to win our last Nations League game, to really show that it was just a slip against Spain. Spain are a very good team, but we need to keep our focus, our composure, Well, are you asking on the chat, guys?
I
Will
want to
Italy
get a
make the
poll.
World
I
Cup?
want to get some. I want to get some opinions.
Well, that would be definitely a very sad day if Italy didn't qualify. But there would be the playoffs probably. So we will see. We shall see. But let's go to Africa, Rory, because there were World Cup actually AFCON qualifiers in Africa before we go to South America, where I have a few headlines for you.
Well, I was going to do a rundown of every group, then I realized there was 10 groups, and I was like, okay, let's keep it to Prem and Serie A links. So let's go for Mahrez. So in Group A, Mahrez scored 2 as Algeria beat Niger 6-1. Burkina Faso also beat Djibouti 4-0 with some great goals. Algeria and Burkina Faso fighting for the top spot there. Elsewhere in Group D, I'm trying to find it. Is it Group D? Group F. Egypt beat Libya 1-0 with an absolute rocket from Marmouche. Egypt and Libya are the ones fighting for qualification there. We had a great goal from Boga for the Ivory Coast as they beat, I'm just looking through my notes. Where's it gone? So many groups.
This is great podcasting, guys. Relax and take notes while we show you how to make a podcast.
I promise the AFCON coverage will be more organized. Here we go. Ivory Coast beat Malawi 3-0 away. Boga scored an absolute banger. And Cameroon beat Mozambique 1-0 in that group as well. The way the fixtures are falling, it means each team have played each other twice within the space of like 3 days. So they played each other home and away. So Cameroon beat Mozambique again 3-1 with Choupo-Moting, who I'm starting to think might not be the worst striker in the world. Choupo-Moting getting 2 goals in that game. What other Premier League links have we got? Thomas Partey finally scored. He scores for Ghana like fairly regularly, but for Arsenal, he's still yet to score. He scored a nice goal for them as they beat Ethiopia. No, they beat Zimbabwe. So it's all looking quite. Most of the groups are kind of decided, but the big result was in Group C. Central African Republic beat Nigeria 1-0 in Lagos. This is their first win in 11 games since 2019, right? It's the first time they've ever beat Nigeria. And before you ask, yes, Osimhen did miss lots of chances. But then in the return leg, a mere 2 days later, Nigeria battered them 2-0. And yes, Osimhen did score. So classic Osimhen all through Nigeria. But Central African Republic making a statement. That was like the result that really stood out. And the scenes afterwards were really beautiful. The players, like you could see, they really wanted that win. And beating one of like Africa's giants is a big statement. But all of these groups, only half of the teams that top the groups will go through as they all go into a playoff. Now, these qualifiers they go for AFCON qualification and World Cup qualification. So it kind of counts for both. Even more confusion and more complicated stuff. But I would definitely recommend searching out the Boga goal and the Marmouche goal for Egypt because they were beautiful. So good to finally starting to get my eye in with African football. And next time it'll be a bit more organized. It's just seeing Group A to J just scrambled my brain a little bit.
I think this is actually only World Cup qualifiers because it feels like the AFCON groups are already ready to go.
But I think they use
they're adding another group at the end.
I think they use it for the next tournament as well, but I'd have to check.
All right. Well, in South America, brace tight, because in South America, there is only one group for World Cup qualifications. It's a group with 10 teams. The majority of teams have already played 11 games. Only 2 teams have played 10, them being Brazil and Argentina. 1 + 1 makes 2. That's why they didn't play that game, because the police stormed the pitch, right? So there are still, the impressive thing about this qualification group is that each team plays each other twice, but they're already on 11 games and there are still 7 to go. So it means that even teams like Venezuela, who are bottom with 7 points, I mean, if theoretically they won all 7 games, they could probably try and get there. Now, Rory, do you remember how many teams actually advance from the South American group to the World Cup?
Top of my head, I'm gonna say I'm gonna say 3, and then there's one that goes into a playoff against Oceania, right?
It's 4.5.
Damn.
So yeah, the first
Okay,
four
okay.
teams they qualify directly, and then the fifth team is like the half, and they're going to an interzone playoff with another continent. Feels
I
a lot
think
like
it's
race.
Oceania, and it's almost always New Zealand because Australia are now in Asia. Yeah.
So the currently Brazil are leading. They have won 9 games and drawn one. They're on 28 points. Argentina are trailing at 22 with 10 games played, 6 wins, 4 draws, and then they're followed by Ecuador and Uruguay. Down, down, down. We find Chile at 8th. However, they're on 10 points. And remember, there are still 7 games to play. So everything is still possible. The headline from South America is definitely Lionel Messi becoming the first South American player to get to 80 international goals. So congratulations, Lionel. And the thing that really touched me was Lautaro Martinez crying after scoring a game for Argentina. And I was like, wait, did they lose that game? And then I checked and they had won very comfortably, 3-0. So what's up, Lautaro? Are you missing Milan too much? You miss playing for Inter. We know that. The reason was, and it really touched my heart, the reason was because it was the first time that both his girlfriend and his daughter were sitting on the stands watching him play for Argentina.
Wow.
And when he scored, he said, at first I simply celebrated. Then he said, there was this quote unquote that I really liked. He said, at first I simply celebrated. Then when I got subbed off, he said, I had 1 minute where I just started thinking about like life intensely. And I was just like, look at this, like scoring for my international team. My family's here. I like play the sport that I love. And I just teared up. And I was just like, Lautaro, man, I love it. Good
The
job for
picture,
not.
I saw the picture this morning. It was really, really kind of. It was a nice picture in a weird way of like a man crying, if you know what I mean. But you're like, for it to see that it meant so much to him, and yeah, I think you forget how much maybe the empty stadiums and stuff did affect players, and especially for a player who I want to say he broke into the Argentina team during COVID, right? So maybe he hadn't really had the chance for his family and stuff to be there, and obviously not if this is the first time. So it's great to see that it meant so much to him. And look, we could talk about Lautaro for about an hour. I think we both are in love with him. So I think
No, but
it's
I
great
think
to see him like
no, I
smashing
just think that it's great that he's become an Argentinian regular and
it.
he's their forward. And for me, like I was looking the other day at the short list for the Ballon d'Or, and there were 3 Inter
We need to get
players.
onto that. We need to
Three,
talk about that. We can talk about it at the end. It's
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah. Like there were 3 Inter players in the short list, and I'm like, when is the last time that as many as 3 Inter players were nominated? So this year it was Lautaro, Barella, and of course Lukaku, who plays for Chelsea now, but I think he was nominated for the
Yeah,
Ballon
yeah,
d'Or
yeah.
for what he accomplished with Inter and then what followed this summer and everything. But yeah, and seeing Lautaro, like our striker, our number 10 in the short list for the Ballon d'Or, fuck yeah, I love
That's
it.
great to see, man. That's
By
great
the
to
way,
see.
we've got a question from the Hopeless Wanderer. Which team do we think will suffer most with AFCON taking place? Liverpool, Napoli, perhaps? I'm going for Napoli, man. Napoli are screwed.
I think Liverpool are really going to struggle. Like they're going to lose Salah and Mane, right, and Keita.
Matip, is
There's
he
going to
still
be
there?
more Matip. I feel like there's going to be a fair few players that they're going to miss, but I think it's hard to look beyond Napoli being like the spine of their team disappearing for a month is going to be. We talked about it last episode, right? It could be the moment, or it could be the period that decides that Napoli don't win the Scudetto. Like it could be that huge, right?
And that I don't win on fantasy football, probably. with
More
Osimhen
importantly,
gone.
and the fact that Tommy hopefully goes below me in the table in fantasy
But
football
guys,
at that point.
strategy. Since I knew this would happen, I got all of the remaining Napoli strikers. So pretty much my forwards are all Napoli's. So when Osimhen is not there, the others will have to play. So I got all of them.
Chess, not checkers. Chess, not
Definitely,
checkers.
definitely Petagna in your starting lineup does not quite sound as appealing as Osimhen, but hey, we'll give it a shot for 1
He
month.
gets the
And see.
job done. I like Petagna. But Tommy, before we go, we've got a couple of minutes. What did you think of the Ballon d'Or list?
Mhm.
No Federico Chiesa,
Yeah, I mean
but there
Federico
was
Chiesa.
Mason Mount.
Yeah, the oh, sorry, Matip retired from international football. I didn't know that. Thanks, Bryce.
I had no idea. I missed that completely.
Right, thank you. Well, so the short list for the Ballon d'Or, it's kind of funny. Like, doesn't matter if you are in the list, knowing that you're not gonna even get 10th. Probably no, it probably doesn't matter. But I mean, Federico Chiesa was one of the revelations this year in international football over the past 2 years. And I think that he's really shown that he's going to be there for a while. He's like one of the, we've said it, not afraid to repeat it, one of the generational players of this new generation, in my opinion. Definitely deserved the shout. I was a little disappointed. Who do you think the Ballon d'Or is going to go to?
I think it's probably going to go to Messi or Ronaldo.
Why?
But why? I don't know, because it will. I think
Why?
it should. I think it should go to Lewandowski because he should have won it last year, and let's just give it him this year because he's continued that form. But I think I get the feeling that there'll be one more like Messi shot into the sky or something before it's all like retired, if you know what I mean. I think there'll be the one last one of them winning it. Who do you think is going to get it?
I don't know. I'm afraid it's going to be a Messi or a Ronaldo again. If Lukaku had, it should be Lewandowski. Yes, Bryce, I like it because it was so weird in international football and football all around with COVID, and they didn't get it last year. And they've given Messi and Ronaldo Ballon d'Ors when they didn't deserve them. There is a very good shout for Jorginho. Jorginho has won a shit ton this year, and he was kind of key.
I'm not having it. I'm not having it.
You're not having
it. Sergio Busquets never got a shout for Ballon d'Or. And this season from Jorginho does not even come close to Busquets' greatest ever season. I'm not having it.
Well, and also about the Ballon d'Or, I just think that it doesn't make a lot of sense. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, the Ballon d'Or overall. There was one year when Snyder could have made it easily for when Inter Milan won the Champions League. He was in the World Cup final with the Netherlands, and he pinpointed the pass for fucking Arjen Robben, who missed in front of Casillas. That would have been definitely Ballon d'Or contender. No, Messi won it in the end. And I remember La Gazzetta dello Sport in Italy, the title was Messi ? Really ? Again. Yeah. It was just come on, guys, what's the meaning of this trophy anymore?
So I think I agree. And as we've discussed before, Nedved winning it over Thierry Henry will always forever boil my blood that season. So I think how much does it really matter? Not really. How much does it is it just a popularity contest? And is it just based through narrative? How much the papers talk about one person getting it usually means they get it, right? I don't know. So it's the kind of media honey at the time. I don't know.
The problem is that if Messi gets one, then they're going to have to give another one to Ronaldo. If Ronaldo gets one, then they're going to have to give Messi another one. So they're uneven. That competition cannot end with one winning over the other one. That competition.
No, there has to be a winner, Tommy. We need it. We need an answer to the debate, otherwise it will go on until the day we die and beyond.
It's such a boring debate at this point.
No, I'm sick of it. And there are no weirder accounts than the people on Twitter who really rep Ronaldo and Messi. It gets really weird really quick. They are some weird people.
And I hate when it's just I don't know, how good does Haaland rank on the all-time strikers? And then you read the comment section and it's Ronaldo is GOAT. Messi is GOAT. GOAT Messi. GOAT Ronaldo. You're just fuck it. Go do something with your life. We're talking about another guy. But I agree. I think I agree the most with Bryce. I think Lewandowski didn't get, for some fucking stupid reason, he wasn't awarded the most ambitious individual trophy in world football. Then give it to him. He deserved it.
No, I think he absolutely deserved it. Last question, I think, because we are coming up to 5 seconds left of the show.
From our friend Teddy, who's probably going to come on sometime to speak about Manchester United, another friend from Minneapolis, Lex bro of mine when we were lacrosse buddies.
Another United fan, Christ alive.
No, he's a Manchester City fan. Manchester City fan.
Oh, Man City, okay. That's a bit bad.
He says, when do you think the Haaland will be a serious contender for the trophy? I think it could be already in a few years, but he needs to win something either he stays at Borussia Dortmund and they win something, or at another club. Who knows? Maybe Manchester City, Theodore, and they're going to win the Champions League, and he's going to win the Ballon d'Or. and then it would be very funny to talk about it with Bryce, who's a Manchester United fan. But I think we're done, guys. We're slightly running over time. It was super fun, guys. Thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to see that there is some interaction. Right now, it's gone to banter. Bryce is telling Theodore, nice, sexy headshot. Ted, let's see if Ted is going to clap back before we're done with the stream. Rory, anything to tell our listeners before we send them off?
No, just thank you for bearing with us not being able to have a live show last week. Blame Mark Zuckerberg. But it's good to be back. We will be back on Thursday. And yeah, they're on forward. Follow us on Twitter at Italian Anglopod and on Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod. Nailed them both. Look at that. Follow at Sports Club Maps. Have a cheeky order. Look at some of their stuff. It's fucking great. So yeah, that's it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. Tommy, send us out.
Guys, club football is back in T-5. Just hold on tight. Serie A, Premier League, La Liga, Ligue 1, Eredivisie, Bundesliga. It's all going to be back soon.
Don't forget Liga Nosh.
Liga Nosh. Actually, I should have said it before. Ligue 1. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As Theodore claps back at Bryce, how old is your picture? High school. They are having some fun. This is the reason why you should join us every Monday night at 8 p.m. Central European time. Talk to you soon, guys.